An Indiana man is in jail after police said he admitted to killing his pregnant girlfriend, but then claimed she did it to herself. I dive into the disturbing details of the case of Ariel Nevills and talk with one of her friends.
I just want everyone to know how great she was. She really was a great person.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. This case involves the murder of a pregnant woman. She was actually from Indiana, but she had moved to Tennessee, and sadly, that is where she was murdered. Her name is Ariel Nevills. She was 30 years old and 7 months pregnant with a baby girl that she planned to name Nova. Ariel's boyfriend, 29-year-old Vidol Wegner, faces 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of felony murder in the death of his girlfriend and unborn child. The investigation started on January 20th. It was a holiday. The Robertson County Sheriff's Office asked officers with the Spring Hill Police Department to check on Ariel Nevills after receiving a phone call. They arrived around 6 a.m. Spring Hill Police said officers went to the house and located a 30-year-old woman who had sustained fatal wounds. Ariel Nevills was 7 months pregnant with this child. Oddly enough, police say the person who called 911 and asked deputies to check on Ariel was the man who took her life, her boyfriend. Police brought Vidol Wegner in for questioning, and they said that he admitted to strangling Ariel Nevills. According to court documents, Wegner said that he strangled Nevills 2 different ways to kill her and their unborn child. He used both hands around the neck and his forearm to complete the task. Wegner did wait until Nevills was deceased to leave the residence. In an exclusive jailhouse interview with News 2, that's WKRN TV, Wegner is asked straight up if he killed Ariel Nevills, and his response was incriminating to say the least. Wegner was quoted as saying, "No, dude, I didn't. She did it to herself. I told her this is the way. I had a beautiful future set up for us. She wanted to act crazy. She chose this. It didn't have to be this way." Wegner added, "I'm protecting my legacy. I'm abiding by the Constitution. I'm not doing anything wrong. There is no way for me to get her to be held accountable for what she's doing. We had an agreement. Why did she go back on that?" This is pretty unbelievable. Wegner, according to this reporter, is blaming Ariel for wanting to keep their baby, and he said she was being crazy. Wegner is currently being held at the Maury County Jail without bail as he awaits his next court date. Now, Ariel was originally from Indiana, as I mentioned, and she had served in the Illinois Army Reserve. She worked as a union millwright. In fact, she and Wegner were both millwrights, repairing heavy machinery. I spoke with Ariel's friend, Paige Davis, about her.
I just want everyone to know how great she was. She really was a great person. She was going to be a great mother. She took care of her siblings, and she loved animals, especially her snakes. She
had snakes.
She did. She had 5 pet snakes.
Paige Davis said that Ariel Nevills had moved from Indiana to Tennessee in 2023 for a better job and to be closer to her siblings.
That's why she moved down there, for a better job, good money. She knew nobody down there. But she wanted to move down there to take care of her siblings and stuff like that.
Davis also says Ariel was so excited about becoming a mom.
She was very excited. Very excited. She did a early gender test as soon as she found out. She wanted to know what she was having. She found out it was a girl, so I started saving some girl stuff for my daughter for her, and she was very excited to be a mom. I think that's what she wanted most. I just want her name out there. I want the legacy of Ariel Nova to, go on. I want everyone to know how great she was and how great Nova would have been, and how much of a good mom Ariel was going to be.
I want to take a break from this just incredibly devastating story to tell you about one of our sponsors. It's Upside. It's a free app that will get you cash back on things like gas, groceries, and restaurants. This is real cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you can transfer straight into your bank account. I've used Upside at places like Dunkin' Donuts when I needed a cup of tea. I've claimed an offer for Dunkin' on the app, paid as usual, and followed the steps. Then I got cash back. It's really easy. You can also use Upside at places like Shell, Exxon, Taco Bell, Chipotle, and that's just to name a few. To find out how much you could earn, click the link in the description to download Upside, or scan the QR code that's on your screen and use our promo code CRIMEFIX to get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. That's promo code CRIMEFIX for extra cash back. I want to bring in Amber Malott. She is the Vice President of Programming at Women Helping Women in Cincinnati, Ohio. So, Amber, thanks so much for coming on. First of all, just your reaction to reading this story. I see so many of these awful, disturbing headlines about women who are pregnant and then their partners are accused of murdering them.
It's tragic, and it's far too common, unfortunately. So I thank you for finding a platform to be able to speak out about the injustice here and, elevate the needs of survivors and their services and the need for services.
Why are women, it's a leading cause of death among pregnant women is homicide, or a leading manner of death. So why are women at increased risk for homicide while they're pregnant and at the hands of the father of the children or their significant other?
Yeah, it's horrible to try to wrap your mind around the dynamics involved in domestic violence. I think the fundamental aspect of the power and control that's involved in these relationships is really what drives the lethality to be increased at times of pregnancy. Domestic violence perpetrators operate under the ability to control every aspect of their, partner's life and increased access to health care or need for attention and increased support from family are all things that perpetrators don't want. So as a person becomes pregnant and wants to acquire these things, then that creates more of a risk for perpetrators to be found out that their behavior is unhealthy or abusive, or for appropriate parties to be able to recognize those red flags and intervene appropriately.
This case is particularly disturbing. Vidol Wegner, according to the information that we have obtained from the affidavit, that accompanied the complaint charging him with murder, said that he admitted to strangling Ariel, that he did it two different ways, that he used, I think, his hands, and then another way. I mean, he provided some detail here. And then now he's in an interview with a TV station. He's kind of denying it. So, there are a couple of things I want to talk about here. First of all, the strangulation part of this. I know that I have covered a lot of cases where strangulation, that's a way that many people will kill a significant other.
Absolutely. Yes. Unfortunately, we're trying to work very closely to raise awareness around the lethality involved in that situation, and also increase penalties, within the legal and criminal justice system for folks who are battering their intimate partners and applying, tactics such as strangulation, because that is the highest risk. And lethality will lead to the most danger ultimately, and can have, if the survivor is able to, continue living past that violent incident, could have detrimental impacts on their ability to function throughout the rest of their life.
And strangulation, a lot of times, I remember I covered a case when I worked in local news in Cincinnati. There was this woman, poor woman, who was murdered, and her family was trying to pass a bill regarding strangulation in the Ohio State House, because a lot of times when women die by strangulation at the hands of a partner, it's not the first time that this has happened. A lot of times it's happened before, where they've been strangled by a partner. It's like a precursor almost. Like this is something that is not uncommon.
I think, again, it's one of those things where as it can be introduced, into a relationship, there can be manipulation on the part of the abuser in that scenario to try to integrate it or reduce some hesitation around it, and apply that as almost if grooming them in preparation for them to not be able to resist or fight once they decide that they want that to end, in a deadly situation. So yes, it is definitely an indicator of high lethality, and doing lethality assessments as advocates are coming into contact with the survivors and pointing out the concern if that is something that has occurred to them is something that has to be done so that survivors themselves can understand the escalation that can occur from that and where it could end with fatal consequences.
This man Wegner, Vidol Wegner, gave a pretty revealing television interview to a TV station down there in Tennessee, and he apparently was asked very directly by this reporter, "Did you kill her?" And he said something to the effect of, "What did I do?" and took a long pause and said, "No, dude, I didn't. She did it to herself. I told her this is the way. I had a beautiful future set up for us. She wanted to act crazy. She chose this. It didn't have to be this way." And then the reporter follows up and asks, "So you were mad that she got pregnant?" To which he replied, "Listen, when I started that relationship, I told her, if we get pregnant, are we going to do something about it?" And she said, "Yeah." She found out 10 weeks in. She said, "I want to keep it." I'm like, "Didn't we have that conversation? I'm not doing this." She said, "Yeah." That is just stunning to me. I was flabbergasted when I read that. I mean, he didn't have to stay.
Yeah, he did not. No. And I think it's a perfect illustration for the way abusers gaslight and deflect any responsibility off of themselves and project it onto, their victims in these situations. It can happen from, just blaming them for not having, the children dressed, the dinner fixed, blaming them for the consequence of the act of violence that they receive from the hands of that abuser. So it really illustrates very, very clearly that even in death, he's still gaslighting and projecting blame onto the victim in this situation instead of, owning the tragic consequences of his actions.
Wegner was quoted as saying by the TV reporter that, basically he's protecting his legacy. "I'm abiding by the Constitution. I'm not doing anything wrong. There is no way for me to get her to be held accountable for what she's doing. We had an agreement. Why did she go back on that?" I mean, that's just shocking to me. I mean, I can't imagine, if all of this is 100% true, and obviously this guy is innocent until proven guilty, he has rights as anybody else does. I find it hard to believe that this happened just out of the blue, in a vacuum. There had to be something leading up to this.
If I were a gambling woman, I would say that this is not the first time that there has been violence present in this relationship. And I just would like to point out that the fact that he has equal amount of responsibility and access to ways to prevent pregnancy if he was that determined to not procreate and protect his legacy in this scenario. Oftentimes, reproductive coercion is a part of intimate partner violence that, many survivors don't realize the shapes and forms that it comes in. Having that conversation at that moment in time, if they did in fact have that conversation, is one thing. I think in certain things that I've seen in this case, he's also indicated that somehow she was at fault or somehow harming herself in this situation, and that, she, it seemed to me that she was very vital and had folks that she was responsible for, other children, when she decided that, 10 weeks into this pregnancy that she wanted to continue to keep this pregnancy, she had a reason to live. She had a reason to stay alive till 7 months of pregnancy. She wanted to, obviously, I'm sure, see a newborn child brought into this world that she could love and care for. And I think that him probably knowing that seems to be something that would really, really cause him concern that what he had been probably doing to her up until that point was likely to be found out and end with consequences that he would need to endure.
If we have any pregnant women watching right now and any of this sounds familiar, or women just generally speaking, maybe they aren't carrying a child, but any of this sounds eerily familiar. What are your words of advice?
My words of advice are familiarize yourself with resources locally or even nationally, wherever you are, that will support you and help you if you have any inclination or intuition that your relationship does not feel safe, that you don't feel valued, and that you're not feeling protected. You find those resources, seek the confidential supports that they can provide, and feel hopefully empowered by your conversations with them to make choices that will put you, and maybe any of your family members in a safer place, or show you your value and your worth, that you don't deserve this type of abuse. You don't deserve this behavior. It's not normal. And you can find the help that's out there and not be blamed for it, because no one deserves this.
It's just terrible. Amber Malott, thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And that's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for being here. I'll see you back here next time.